WisconsinEye is at the State Democratic Party Convention in Milwaukee, interviewing State Treasurer Sarah Godlewski. Sarah, good to see you.
It's great to be here, Steve.
Haven't talked since the election. Congratulations.
I know. Thank you. Thank you.
It's I'm going to paraphrase Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, the governor asked that that you get all funds for FTEs and GPR, General Fund 2.5. The Republicans didn't even give your budget a hearing. So, lessons learned 5 months on the job?
So I think what really the lessons have been learned is that there's a lot that this office has been doing, and we're going to continue to do it regardless. Because when 62% of Wisconsinites vote to have a strong state treasurer, I think it's on the legislature that they need to fund it. I mean, one of the things that we made really clear, Steve, that when we were running is we want to be a fiscal watchdog. I mean, I've only been in office for a few months, and we identified through our unclaimed property process that we weren't giving property back to municipalities or to nonprofits, which is over $200,000 of money that should be going back to taxpayers. And so, I mean, that's a lot of money. And it's just me. Now imagine what we could do if we actually had staff. I mean, it's a return on investment that outweighs any sort of expense that our office would have incurred.
You had very ambitious plans and hopes for your office. How much of that can you get done if you get no upper in your annual budget, Sarah?
Well, I mean, look, I think that we've already started doing a lot, and we're creative in how we do this. One of the things that, as the state's chief financial officer, I actually looked at our financial statement, Steve, to see what is on the state treasurer's books, what do we have, and we found out that we had a grant that was on the books that nobody knew about. And so we used that money to hire somebody to help us right away. And so we've been able, for example, to identify gaps in the system. I mean, what's mind-boggling is one of the responsibilities we're supposed to be doing is to be reuniting taxpayers back with their unclaimed property. Since this hasn't been funded, we've seen a 10% decrease in performance, which that comes to over $10 million a year. This is money back to Wisconsin taxpayers that we should be doing. And if only the Republican legislature would start funding us, we could easily be doing this work.
Well, I'm on your campaign's mailing list, okay. Although I haven't given, but thanks for the emails. The last one says right-wing Republicans are dead set on getting rid of the treasurer's office, but voters voted to keep the treasurer's office. Do you see another effort coming to get rid of you and potentially Secretary of State?
So here's what we have now met with over 40 legislators, and what I find fascinating is that when we meet one-on-one, Steve, we find a lot of things that we have in common. I mean, things that we want to work on together. But it becomes then political when they actually want to give us any sort of money to fund our office. But I think here's what's ironic, and when we talk to legislators about it, there's two misperceptions. One is that by adding staff, we're growing government and that we're using taxpayer money. I mean, this office has run on money that we earn since it basically started. I mean, we earn interest and we earn money on the programs that we run, and our checking book basically has $12 million in it currently that we could be using. So it's no tax dollars. It's not like I'm taking money from another program to pay for my office. The second thing is that people will say, well, you're just adding bureaucrats in the basement. Well, not so. I mean, if we've already identified over $200,000 that should be going back to taxpayers, I mean, at that rate, I've actually forecasted our office could find $5 million to go back to taxpayers, which is a return on investment of over 200%, Steve. That's a return that taxpayers, I think, deserve.
Now, the unclaimed property was shifted from State Treasurer to the Department of Revenue. Are you saying Revenue has not done a good job in finding?
So that's not entirely true, actually. What happened with the statute is it was split in half. So they process based on tax IDs, and then we're responsible for promoting it, to making sure people actually know about it, like we reach out to people.
So they identify and you do what?
We actually are supposed to be promoting the program, connecting people, reuniting people back with their property.
Okay.
So that's the two distinctions. And because we haven't been promoting the unclaimed property program and been reuniting, that's where we've seen that $10 million decrease every year.
Okay. The governor's budget identified in all funds FTEs for state treasurer of 4. If that were approved, What's your vision for your office if you had 4 employees in 2 and 3 years?
Well, I think the first goes to being a fiscal watchdog. I mean, things that we talked about were looking at how do we determine and create an annual report. A lot of state treasurers create annual reports for their citizens. Just like there's an annual report for a nonprofit or an annual report, for example, for a business where you can actually see and have transparency and accountability. I mean, that's something that we really want to do, and we plan on doing it to some level, but we might not be able to do it to the level that we wanted because we don't have the resources to do it.
Do you have more access to state records and documents because we have a Democratic governor now?
I mean, we have access to any sort of documents as an independently elected constitutional officer would. So I mean, access to documents is not something that I'm worried about. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to, I think, identify gaps in a process if we weren't accessing and kind of looking and reviewing, which is exactly things that we're doing.
You mentioned this $200,000. Why hasn't that gone back to governments and taxpayers?
I think it goes back to there was an actual gap in the process. So the way that the tax ID system works is it's people that already have tax IDs. A lot of municipalities and nonprofits don't, and so they were left out of that process. And
you were the only woman to win statewide office. Is the climate getting better for women to run?
Honestly, I think that women just need to do what we do every day, which is go up there, roll up our sleeves, and add our voice to the table. Because how I look at it, Steve, if it's not me, who, and if it's not now, when. And the reality is if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And so I think, I encourage women all the time to run because I feel that we bring a different perspective. And that perspective has been missing, and so I'm glad that we now have a voice at the table.
You've got your day job as state treasurer, but apart from that, what role do you envision yourself as we elect a new president in a year and 4 months? Are you going to be out there, high profile, encouraging women and taking part in this dialogue?
So when it comes to the presidential election, I'll be honest, Steve, I haven't really been looking. I've been a little busy, as you can hear, on the things that we've been doing. But my primary role when I'm not actually rolling up my sleeves and looking at finances is just encouraging more women to run for office because I think it's really important. We have less than 23% of our legislature is comprised of women. And when we make up more than 51% of the population, there's a disparity there. And that's a disservice for Wisconsinites.
When you asked the co-chairs of Joint Finance, at least give my budget a hearing, and were told no, did they give you any reasons?
You'll have to ask them.
Okay. First 5 months on the job, frustrating, satisfying? How would you describe it?
I mean, I love what I do. I mean, having the honor of serving the people of Wisconsin in a job that I have been doing my entire career, I feel incredibly honored and lucky. But, I mean, it doesn't come with any challenges. It definitely has been frustrating at times when we're already proving that we have a return on investment for our tax dollars, that we're already proving ourselves by identifying money that's missing. We talk about good economic policies that we want to work together on, and we're just told, yeah, that's all great work, but we're just not going to fund you. So that becomes incredibly frustrating, especially when 62% of Wisconsinites have said they want a strong treasurer. And it wasn't just that vote once, Steve. I mean, they voted in April, but if you look at the vote this fall, almost as many people voted in the state treasurer's race as they did the governor. Usually there's a significant drop-off when you're fifth on the ballot, but not for the state treasurer. And I think that that's a commitment to people wanting a strong fiscal watchdog.
If 3 years from now, you're still a one-person band, have you thought about not seeking re-election?
I mean, 3 years is a long way away from where I am today. I love what I do, and I'm going to continue to do that. I mean, I love fighting for the people of Wisconsin, and I look forward to doing it for as long as they will have me.
State Treasurer Sarah Godlewski.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.